Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Removed Items. I know I've been doing a lot of these recently, and I apologize to those of you who find them a bit monotonous, if not outright low-effort content. But in my defense, I've been scrambling to prepare a lot of content ahead of time, as by the time you see this, I'm actually going to be in the midst of a 3-week gauntlet of travel, and I wanted to make sure you guys still had something to watch during your lunch break. Anyway, we still have a lot of old items to look through, some that are no longer in the game, and some that have since taken on a different form. One item in particular was around during the alpha times of the game, and while I'm fairly certain no one watching now has been around during that time, it was so intriguing that I couldn't help but include it in the video, so I hope you're looking forward to that. On that note, let's get started. Guinsoo's Rageblade is a well-known item in League of Legends. As a weapon of choice for anyone specializing in quantity of attacks over quality, it serves as a bedrock for any on-it focused build, providing a hearty mixture of attack damage, ability power, and no shortage of bonus attack speed. Most notably, however, it allows the wielder to apply on-it effects at a rapid rate, greatly benefiting the likes of Master Yi, Kayle, Kai'Sa, and Kalista, who can tack on tons of bonus DPS and/or effects through passive on-it damage. It's a staple item in the game and a rather inoffensive one in its present form. A long while back, however, Rageblade had a completely different purpose to it, several in fact, having been altered multiple times before arriving at its current iteration. While it was only for a short while, one version of it was widely considered by the grand majority of players to be the most powerful item in the game during its time. At the start of 2016, Rageblade was adjusted to be a 2800 cost item that built off a pickaxe and a blasting wand, offering 30 AD and 40 ability power. At a glance, it was a complete rip-off of an item, providing only 5 extra attack damage over its 2 components at base. However, to make up for that, it carried by far one of the most overloaded item passes in the game's history. Basic attacks generated 8% attack speed, 3 bonus AD, and 4 bonus AP for 5 seconds. The catch is that it stacked up to 8 times. At 8 stacks, Rageblade would climb to a staggering 54 AD, 72 ability power, and 64% attack speed, pushing its gold efficiency value to nearly 5,000, giving 1.75 times more value to you than the gold you paid to get it. Just that by itself would have been more than a reason for champions to whom it was applicable on to buy it, but at full stacks, it also caused your attacks to gain a Tiamat effect, dealing splash damage to nearby enemies to the tune of both your AD and ability power. That bonus property tipped it over from an overtuned stat stick into one of the most broken items in League history, causing anyone who bought it to practically stat check every single champion in the game through sheer damage and stats. The likes of Jax, Warwick, Xin Zhao, Aatrox, Tryndamere, and Master Yi would completely steamroll everyone in the game for insane damage, and it wasn't just melee auto attackers either. AD carries, notably those with hybrid ratios like Ezreal, would occasionally buy this item as well, making it the first ever item capable of applying Tiamat on ranged champions back when Ravenous and Titanic Hydra were melee only. For the champions who built it, having AoE damage and every stat you ever wanted was the closest thing to a champion reaching full build on a single item. Again, that was before the time of the Irelia Vamp Scepter or Camille Divine Thunder meme was around. Not gonna lie, I kinda miss this item. The next item is a personal favorite of mine for reasons known only to the almighty. I don't even know why I like it. Like, it isn't even that good or anything, but as a Viktor enjoyer, namely the old Viktor, when they reworked his passive, part of me felt like he lost what made him so unique. I think it's because I'm a fan of champions having unique experiences. Viktor was defined by his iconic Hex Core. Prior to version 10.22, Viktor used to have his own personal item, the prototype Hex Core. It was a full-on item in your inventory that gave him bonus ability power and mana per level. For additional gold, namely 1000 bonus gold, you could procure upgraded versions of the Hex Core, affording Viktor with even more ability power and mana. Upon purchasing the perfect Hex Core, it would grant you 180 bonus ability power and 450 bonus mana at level 18. Not too bad for costing only 3000 gold, effectively giving a deck cap's worth of ability power when factoring in the passive just on itself, and mana is always good. What's more, each upgrade of the Hex Core was responsible for evolving his abilities. Movement speed on his Q, the slow on his W, aftershock on his E, what have you. The current version of Viktor's passive requires skill participation and CS to upgrade his abilities, but for me at least, I much prefer this version of Viktor. Yes, ultimately they serve an identical function, whereby Viktor needs gold to upgrade his abilities, and by CSing and scoring kills he'd naturally be able to do so. But it just felt more satisfying upgrading Hex Core to do so over getting it organically, and again, it was a unique thing about Viktor. I do understand why they changed it though. It's kind of the same thought process as to why there's no more jungle item like there used to be. Numerically, the Hex Core was a gold efficient purchase, but it essentially restricted Viktor into purchasing only 4 completed items while every other mage could get 5. This meant he would face a tougher opportunity cost in that hypothetically he may not be able to buy a situationally beneficial item to help him in the late game because the item slot that situational purchase could fit into is occupied by the Hex Core. Still though, it's a piece of history, and I for one think more champions should have their own custom items. Kind of like how Gangplank can buy upgrades to his ultimate. I think it's a cool feature to have non-standard item interactions like that, even if it comes at the expense of practicality. Okay, so remember when I said at the beginning that there's an item that used to be in the game but was taken out before League even made it to live release? Initially, I didn't think much of it considering Alpha was chock full of comically unbalanced items, that's why it's Alpha and not live. But I wanted to take a moment to talk about it because imagine if such an item were to exist in the modern day. It was called Breathstealer, a very interesting item, especially image-wise. I love the rainbow color of it, although it looks more like a shining glass crystal than something that's supposed to like kill you, unless they refer to how distractingly pretty it is. But that's besides the point. We're not talking about item sprites, we're talking about what it actually did. Carrying a price tag of 3600 gold, one of the most expensive items in the game, it built off a needlessly large rod and a chain vest. Anyone remember when large rods used to cost 1600 gold? Anyway, on completion you had 95 ability power and 70 armor. As you know, right now, the only ability power armor item in the game that we know of today is the all too infamous Sonya's Hourglass, and Sonya's already has a checkered past of being too pragmatically general for a supposed situational defensive purchase. If only Breathstealer was in the game. Firstly, it provided 15% cooldown reduction, or roughly 20 ability haste if we go by today's metrics. Already, that makes it a pretty versatile item, tons of damage, tons of bulk against AD champs, and ability spamming. But there was an active component to it as well, where for 4 seconds on a 90-second cooldown, it would reduce their attack damage and ability power by 70%. Should that sound familiar to a certain summoner spell, that's because it's by all accounts exhaust on an item active with a 90-second cooldown. While it doesn't do anything to mitigate attack speed and on-hit effect-based DPS, due to being a 70% cut to their offensive parameters, you can functionally consider all of the target's pressure null during that time. I'm beginning to understand why Breathstealer has a 3600 gold cost. Being able to do this once every minute and a half would effectively prevent a person on the enemy team from playing the game. Imagine slashing any assassin or mage's AD and ability power by 70% for 4 seconds. Nerfing their DPS by 35% with exhaust feels crippling enough, let alone double that. By the way, something I discovered while doing research for the video, the wiki actually has an entire page of items from the alpha days. Let me know if you want me to make a video about that, cause I found a couple interesting ones in there. For the time being though, we have another really old entry in the game, and in my opinion, a pretty powerful one at that for how cheap it is. Way back in seasons 1 and 2, there were 2 items in the game that carried a very simple premise to them, but by virtue of what that premise was, could potentially be extremely overpowered, especially if there were a lot in the present day. The first item is Regrowth Pendant, a basic item in League, costing 435 gold. That's cheaper than a Doran Shield. It carried absolutely no stats whatsoever except for 15 health per 5 seconds, or 3 HP per second regeneration. It might not seem like much, but let's spin it against Doran Shield. Doran Shield currently gives 110 health and 4 HP per 5 seconds, not even 1 health per second, although it does regenerate more health anytime you take champion damage. Now the reason I find Regrowth Pendant really strong is that 15 flat health per 5 seconds is quite a lot, like that's a lot of health regeneration for something costing only 435 gold. Rejuvenation bead currently costs 300 and doubles your health regeneration, but I believe for most champions it only gives you like 9 to 10 bonus health every 5. Bear in mind, the regeneration is not a unique passive, meaning you could buy 2 or 3 of these if you felt like it, bringing you to 30 or 45 health per 5 seconds. Consider that a health potion recovers 120 HP over 15 or 40 health every 5. Having just one Regrowth Pendant is like a permanent dying health potion active at all times, and if you buy 2, you're really close to having a constant health potion active. Kind of insane if you think about it. Philosopher's Stone followed the same idea, except it was 7 health and 9 mana per 5 seconds, along with 5 gold per 10 seconds. While it regenerated less health than a Regrowth Pendant, for a mere 700 gold you'd be able to have a dye blue buff on you at all times. I don't consider Philostone to be that great if we look at it from the lens of current League where gold efficient mana sources are abundant, but if Regrowth Pendant were to be added to the game, I can very easily see people rushing 2 or 3 of them in the early game and becoming unkillable in lane. Heck, even just one is enough to outright negate any lane harass. To be honest, it wouldn't be too bad to have what with all the ranged top laners we're dealing with at the moment, but either way, that's just a product of old League. We have enough time for 2 more I think, and for our next entry we have another item that when purchased offers so much in gold value that those who went for said item were humorously considered full build upon acquisition of it. We have Hullbreaker. Modern day Hullbreaker is a relatively niche item meant for dedicated split pushing bruisers like Irelia, Kled, Trundle, Yorick, occasionally Viora. For what it's worth, it's an effective item for the job it was intended for. But when it came out as a replacement for Sanguine Blade in mid-2021, this item was not fun whatsoever. Like with any bruiser item, it gave a modest sum of attack damage, health, and health regeneration. Interestingly though, it was kind of weak when it first came out, and over the next couple years they raised it to have 400 HP, 60 AD, and 5% move speed. What really sealed the deal for this item though was the passive, making it so when no friendlies are nearby, you'd gain bonus armor and magic resist, your cannon minions would get massively bulkier and stronger against towers, and so too would your own damage, amplifying all DPS dealt to towers, including abilities that dealt tower damage like Bully Bear and Scion ultimates, or things like Demolish. While originally meant for split pushing, as evident by the no allied champions nearby thing, a scenario you'd reasonably find yourself in quite often by split pushing, Hullbreaker's path to notoriety was based on how far it elevated your stats above your opponent, item for item. At its peak, you'd be getting 60 AD and 400 health, already making you quite bulky, but you'd also get up to 60 armor and magic resist at level 18, or roughly 35 armor and MR at level 12, causing it to make you near indestructible in a 1v1. I believe Hullbreaker's gold efficiency was along the lines of almost 170%, causing it to be so valuable that even non-split pushers like Darius, Garen, Scion, and such took it for the sheer stats it offered. Hullbreaker was so overpowered, champions would easily be able to 1v2 with it, resulting in one of the few instances in League where its dominance was so pronounced, the state of top lane turned into whichever champion could build it first. If you're playing someone who couldn't against someone who could, even if you were 2 or 3 kills up on them, the minute they got Hullbreaker, you were at a considerable disadvantage. The sad thing is, in the interest of being fair for those without the means to counter split pushing, they created Anathema's Chains, an item that effectively casted a permanent exhaust on a single target against you, but that did nothing to stop Hullbreaker, since Hullbreaker users would outright ignore tanks and just go for the tower since tanks could do no damage to them. It was the ultimate defense and offense at the same time, fun if you were abusing it, frustrating if you were on the receiving end of it. Last but not least, we have Righteous Glory, an old favorite of mine. Technically, there were 2 versions of this item. We had Righteous Glory and Turbo Chem Tank, ultimately doing the same thing though. We'll start with the former. Righteous Glory was the tank item providing health, mana, armor, and cooldown reduction, already a versatile spread for tanks that rely heavily on abilities. Regarding the item active, for 4 seconds you gain a ton of bonus movement speed and ghosting while moving towards a turret or visible enemy champion. After 4 seconds or upon making contact with an enemy, you'd then slow all enemies around you by 75% for 2 seconds. Straightforward premise, it's an engage item. Considering tanks like to be smack dab in the middle of the enemy team to CC and disrupt as many people as they can, having a way to charge quickly into them is a big deal, and it was. Righteous Glory was a common purchase on Juggernauts, Divers, and tanks for good stats, a great item active, and how economical it was at only 2650 gold. To that end, Turbo Chem Tank was identical as well, with the only difference being stats. If I could hazard a guess as to why it's no longer in the game, it would probably be the fact that it made things too easy for wielders to get up close and personal. Take Cho'Gath for instance. The central balancing factor for this guy is that he needs to slowly walk up to you to threaten you, relying exclusively on Rupture to lock you down, which isn't all that reliable. Through Righteous Glory, Cho would be able to zoom right up to you and then slow you heavily, preventing you from being able to do much of anything to run away. 75%'s a lot of move speed, practically impossible to dash or run away from, and if you apply that to tank supports, Singed, Olaf, Rammus, Volibear, and so on, you effectively strip away their core weakness. It isn't so much that Righteous Glory was overpowered or overtuned like Hullbreaker and Rageblade were, more that the active made fighting those who built it near impossible to avoid. If I could make an analogy, it would be like when Soraka's ultimate cleared grievous wounds on a team. That sort of negates the one way to shut her down. Righteous Glory did the same thing, trivializing the biggest thing keeping Juggernauts and tanks in check. Still though, I kinda missed it. It was a good item, mildly unhealthy from an experiential point of view, but not the most offensive thing out there either. Alrighty, that wraps up episode 4 of Removed Items. What are your thoughts on the ones I chose? Any special memories of your own? You're welcome to share in the comments down below. Just a reminder as well to let me know if you want me to make a video looking at the alpha items that never made it to live release. Apart from that, if you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it if you could leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars and join my Discord server, and check out my past Removed Items episodes if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.